Hello and welcome. Are you ready for mathematics? Welcome to Study with Sudhir. My name is Tejaswini Sudhir and this series is called Sabse Tez Maths with Tej. Let's get started with the first chapter which we are going to be doing as part of this particular series, this bullet short course, and this is called Ratio and Proportion. So what are we going to be doing through this particular video? We are going to be going through all the important formulas of this chapter, all the concepts that you need to know. We are also going to be talking about what are the frequently made mistakes by your seniors and super seniors which you should not repeat. Also, we will be doing some very important questions. What I want you to do is watch this video till the end, and after that take out some time and actually practice all the possible questions from this chapter. Whatever question comes, you should be able to do it after watching this particular video. We are going to be going through all the important concepts needed for your board exams. Let's get started. Arambikilama. Okay. So, what do you know about ratio? Ratio is basically a fraction, right? You already know from when you were in class 3 or 4 that a fraction is one which has a numerator and a denominator. This same fraction, when it is expressed as A is to B, the numerator is to denominator, it is known as a ratio. Okay, it does not have any units. It is known as a ratio. According to the syllabus of your for your board exam, you do not have too much of ratios in your exam. It is more of proportion which the CISE board has focused on. So we'll quickly go through what is a ratio and then we will go on to what are proportions. Okay, so A is to B is known as a ratio, and mind you, A and B should be in its simplest form. What do I mean by simplest form? I should have been able to reduce it to the more simple form. For example, if my fraction is 10 by 15, what will be the simplest form of this particular fraction? 2 by 3. 5 2s are, 5 3s are. So therefore, the ratio will be 2 is to 3. Okay, so this is known as a ratio. Simplest form of a fraction when expressed as numerator is to denominator, it is known as a ratio. Okay, now let us go on to understand what is a proportion. Typically, this is how we write proportion. Proportion is written as A is to B, 4 dots, as C is to D. Let us try to decode this for you guys. A is to B. A is to B is basically A by B, correct? C is to D is what? It's a ratio. It is basically C by D, right? This proportion means as. What we can mathematically write it as A by B is equal to C by D. This is known as proportion. Okay. So, for example, I am going to say I have one particular value as 45 kgs. Okay. I have another value as 50 kgs. This is a ratio 45 is to 50. You can always bring it to the most simplest form. Similarly, I also have 18 meters is to 20 meters. Okay, so 45 is to 50, 5 9s are, 5 10s are. So 9 is to 10. Here 18 is to 20 meters, 18 meters is to 20 meters is also 2 9s are, 2 10s are. These two ratios are equal. So we can say that 45 kgs is to 50 kgs as, which I'm writing with 4 dots, 1 2 3 4, 18 meters is to, let me just move this a little to the side, 20 meters. So what I want to say with this example is that you can have two ratios of two different quantities. This is kg, which is mass, weight, whereas this is meters, which is referring to length. You can have completely two different quantities, but you can consider them in proportion. You can consider for same quantities or different quantities. Okay, so this is what we understand by the term proportion. So what did we learn till now? We basically learned that A is to B as C is to D, means these four terms are in proportion, and this basically meant A by B is equal to C by D, right? Now we need to know what are some of the terms when we are talking about proportion. So the term A, that is the first term, okay, this in this particular equation it's in the extreme, so we call it an extreme term. Extreme means कोने में, side le, that is called extreme. It is known as first proportion. What is it known as? First proportion. Then you have B. B is, see, A is in the corner, so it's an extreme. D is in the corner, so it's an extreme. B and C are in the middle. Middle is always called means in mathematics. Okay, so we are going to be calling B as means. B and C are means. This will be the second proportion. I'm just writing proportion as PROP. Okay. Next, C is again a means. So C is again a means, and we are writing as third proportion. I hope all of you have taken out your notebooks and pens and you're actually noting down all this along with me so that you have your own personal short notes for every chapter that you can revise one day before your exam. Okay, so C is again means, that is known as third proportion. And then you have D, which is again an extreme like A, and it is known as fourth proportion. Okay. So these are your four important terms that you need to know in this chapter, ratio and proportion, wherein ratio ka part is little less as compared to the focus the board has on proportion. Let's go ahead. Chalo. Okay, so as I just told you in the previous slide that A is to B is as C is to D. Didn't I say this? And then I told you that A and D are the extremes, B and C are the means. I also told you that this can be written as A by B is equal to C by D, right? Can we cross multiply this so that we remove the denominators? A into D is equal to B into C. Isn't that what's written here? What is this? A and D are the extremes, B and C are the means. So the product of extremes is equal to the product of means. Where will you be using this particular formula? Suppose you have a question. The four terms 3, 6, 7 and D are in proportion. Can you please find out what is the term D? So you will use this formula that 3 into D is equal to the middle 6 and 7. I think I said 6 and 7 will be equal to 3 into D. This is how you will be solving questions. So basically this particular formula out here, A into D is equal to B into C, you can also remember as product of extremes is equal to product of means. A into D is equal to B into C is extremely important when you are talking about proportion of four terms. Okay, have you understood this? Have you noted it down? Okay, now there is one more type of proportion that we need to talk about, which is known as continued proportion. Continued proportion is in the case of three quantities. Here it was four quantities, right? Where you had four terms. That's what we have been talking of, quantities. We were talking about four terms, right? That till now we have been talking about four terms. Now what happens if there are three terms? What they're basically saying is that A by B, instead of having is equal to C by D, instead you have is equal to B by C. So this is a chain. A by B is equal to B by C is equal to C by D is equal to D by E. Basically, the middle two terms are actually the same. That means you have A, B, C, wherein A is to B as B is to C. That means the ratio which is A by B is equal to B by C. Okay, this is known as continued proportion. there can be a lot of questions that can be asked on continued proportion because it is a little one step away from the simple basic proportion. Okay, so what happens in this? Can we multiply this, cross multiply this? So what will come? A into C is equal to B into B, which is B square. So therefore, the formula is B square is equal to A into C. I want you all to write it down in your notebook and actually box it, that in continued proportion, A by B is equal to B by C. That is, A is to B as B is to C, and therefore B square is equal to A into C. This is very, very important. I am actually expecting that in your MCQs, if at all they have to ask something from the concept of proportions, they will ask a simple question based on continued proportion, because it's just one formula you need to know. B square is equal to A into C, and you can solve any question. Suppose they ask what is the, in a continued proportion, what is the value of C, wherein they'll give you A and B, and you just need to substitute in this particular formula. Okay. Okay, now let us go to another small concept which I want you guys to know. If you have A by B is equal to C by D is equal to E by F and so on, then sum of the antecedents divided by sum of the consequents will be equal to each of these ratios. What are antecedents? What are consequents? Antecedents basically mean the numerators. The numerators, that is the term which is above the dash, is known as antecedent, and the one which is below the dash, which is the denominator, is known as consequence. Okay, so the sum of the antecedents, so if you have, for example, A by B is equal to C by D is equal to E by F, it will be equal to A plus C plus E divided by B plus D plus F. How many ever terms you add here, whatever terms you add, if they are in ratio with A by B, you add up all the sum of the antecedents divided by sum of the consequence, you will get the same ratio. The sum of those two are also in the same ratio as A by B, same ratio as C by D. That is the small concept which you need to remember. May not come, but it's always good to know this small concept. Okay, come, let us do the next part. This is possibly the most, if at all there's something confusing in this chapter, it could be this part, which are the properties of proportion. Please note them down along with me. Okay, so suppose as the first one is called invertendo. Invertendo, right? If you are breaking it down, what does the word invert mean? Invert means ulta karna, maati podardu. That's what it means, right? Invert means basically reversing in a way. So suppose, first of all, I will tell you what is the base we are looking at. A by B is equal to C by D. This, I'll just write it down more neatly. A by B is equal to C by D. This is the proportion which we are looking at, right? In invertendo, what basically happens is that if you have A by B out here, you will have B by A is equal to, you have C by D out there, so you will have D by C. So please remember that you have invert out here. If you have to do an invertendo, you will do B by A is equal to D by C. Basically, you're just reversing each of the fractions. Okay. Next, what is componendo? Componendo just means you have to do addition in the numerator. So you have A by B. Please remember this, componendo is the most important part of proportions. Okay, A plus B by B is equal to C plus D by D. Okay, did you understand what I just did? Basically, A plus B, numerator plus denominator by denominator, is equal to numerator plus denominator by denominator. This is known as componendo. Always remember, in componendo there will be addition operation that will be performed in the numerator. Okay. What is dividendo? Dividendo basically means that there will be a subtraction operation that is performed. So you will have A minus B by B is equal to C minus D by D. This is known as dividendo. It means that we are division operation performed, and all of this, if it's only dividendo or only componendo, it happens in the numerator. Let me just drink some water while you please note this down. Okay. Yeah. So next you have alternando. What do you remember from the word alternando? Alternando basically means alternate. So when you say alternate, what I want to do, I will write it out here. What you will be doing is that you have A by B. You will alternate it. So you will say, what will you say? A divided by C. What have I done? From that side I have brought C. This side is equal to B divided by D. Alternate, I have reversed. B and C were alternate to each other and I have reversed them. So it is A by C is equal to B by D. That is known as alternando. Please remember alternando. Invertendo and alternando, that very easy to remember. Componendo mein addition happens. Dividendo mein subtraction happens. Okay. Next, convertendo. Is this something you have not remember? You're not familiar with? So convertendo basically means A by A minus B. A by A minus B is equal to C by C minus D. Is this seeming slightly familiar but yet so different? So basically in dividendo, what happened was that you said A minus B by B is equal to C minus D by D. Whereas in convertendo, we are saying A by A minus B is equal to C by C minus D. It's basically a little different from what was dividendo. You're doing subtraction in convertendo as well, but numerator stays as it is and you do the operation in the denominator. Both in A by A minus B is equal to C by C minus D. Next, this is the most important one which you need to remember. Componendo and dividendo. Let me tell you, let me vouch for it that in most questions which will come in your exam, you will be expected to use componendo and dividendo in most of the questions. So please remember this particular formula very well. I'm not saying yes, you should not remember all this. You should, but please ensure that you remember componendo and dividendo, which we commonly write as C and D, very well. Okay. So what will this be? A plus B by A minus B is equal to C plus D by C minus D. This is the formula of componendo dividendo. As you can make out, it is a combination of the two things, except that in dividendo, it is again in the numerator, whereas you're saying A plus B by A minus B is equal to C plus D by C minus D. So all these properties, which are the 6 properties of proportions that you need to remember, especially this one on componendo and dividendo, all of these will be used to actually simplify the equation, and so that we are able to find the value of x, which will be given in that particular equation. In some cases, it is intuitive, whether using just alternando you are able to get the answer, just to make things simpler, so that in some way the objective of using this is to cancel out the more complex terms. If you are able to make it a smaller equation using these techniques and then find out the value of x, that is the basic motive behind all these operations that we are performing. We will also be doing sums wherein we will be using all these concepts. Okay, let's get started with the sums. शुभारंभ करते हैं. So first, since a lot of you wanted assertion and reasoning type question, we are going to start the first sum with an assertion and reasoning question. Please read this particular question. Tell me if you are getting the right answer. I want you guys to write under the video. We will be doing whatever questions we'll be doing. I want you to tell me. First, pause the video, solve it, and then tell me you got 2 right on 3, 1 right on 3, or all 3 right. I want you to tell me in the comment section. After, I also want you to do an edit to that comment and tell me how many sums from this particular chapter you practiced after this particular video was watched by you. Okay, all this I want to keep a track, so please let me know in the comment section. First, please read both the assertion and the reason and tell me which option would be the right option. Okay. Okay, shall we start? Yes. So the assertion says a plus b by a minus b, a plus b divided by a minus b is equal to c plus d by c minus d. Where a, b, c, d are positive real numbers, then a, b, c, d are in proportion. That is, a by b is equal to c by d. Is that correct? Let us just look at this part from here to here. Is that correct? If a by b is equal to c by d, then can we say that a plus b by a minus b is equal to c plus d by c minus d? Can we say this? Absolutely, we can say this, and this is because this is basically your componendo and dividendo, isn't it? So this part is correct. Okay, fine. This part of the assertion is correct. Let's go ahead. Now, furthermore, if a is equal to 5, b is equal to 3, c is equal to 10, then d is equal to 6. And the value of a square plus b square by c square plus d square is 34 by 136, which simplifies to 1 by 4. We must check whether this is correct or not first of all. Okay, so let us first try to substitute in this particular equation. So you first have 5 by 3, a by b is equal to c by d, which is 10 by 6. 10 by 6 is 2 5s are, 2 3s are. So this particular, these four values are in proportion. Okay. Now let us try componendo dividendo. So 5 plus 3, which is 8, divided by 5 minus 3, which is 2, is equal to c plus d, which is 10 plus 6, which is 16, by c minus d, which is 10 minus 6, which is 4. Right? 8 by 2 is 4, which is equal to 16 by 4, which is 4. Correct? So that part is also correct. Okay, let us go ahead. They are saying a square plus b square. A square is 5 square, which is 25, plus b square, which is 3 square, which is 9, divided by c square, which is 10 square, which is 100, plus 6 square, which is 36. This is how much? 25 plus 9, 35 minus 1, 34, divided by 100 plus 36 is 136. They said yes, 34 by 136, 34 by 136, which simplifies to 1 by 4. Does this simplify to 1 by 4? Let's just check. 34 into 4 is 4 4s are 16, 1 in the mind, 3 4s are 12, 13. So you have 136, which is equal to 1 by 4. Correct? Yes. So therefore, this entire thing is actually working out. So the assertion is correct. Okay. Now let us go about to see whether the reasoning which they have given us is correct or not. Arey, okay. So they say if a by b is equal to c by d, okay, then applying componendo and dividendo, we get a plus b by a minus b is equal to c plus d by c minus d. Is this correct? By applying componendo and dividendo on this, we do get this. So this part of the reasoning is correct. Okay, next part. Also, if A by B is equal to C by D, A by B is equal to C by D, A square by B square, then A square by B square is equal to C square by D square. Can we prove this? Yes. When you do squaring on both sides, SOBS is squaring on both sides. Dono side pe we are squaring it. Both sides we are squaring it. So A square by B square is equal to C square by D square. Isn't this what they have mentioned here? Yes. So this part is also correct. Okay. Correct till here. Thus, A square plus B square, A square plus B square, they're doing componendo dividendo looks like on this or no. Let's just see whether what sort of property they're applying. Let us just see whether it actually works out. A square plus B square divided by C square plus D square is equal to A square by C square. Is there any property like this? Have you studied any property which says that A square plus B square divided by C square plus D square is equal to A square by C square? No, there is no such property. Does this apply for this particular equation? If you do A square plus B square, A square plus B square is how much? 25 plus 9 divided by C square plus D square, which is nothing but basically what you did here, right? A square plus B square plus C square plus D square, you get 34 by 136, which is nothing but 1 by 4. It is equal to A square by C square is how much? A square by C square is A square is 25 by C square is 100. Yes, you do get 1 by 4. Correct. But is this the reason why that is true? No, because there is no such property like this. So, while the assertion is correct, it is just a one-off case and it does not apply. You cannot generalize that for every equation which comes. Therefore, while the assertion is correct, the reason is certainly wrong. I hope you have understood what I have tried to tell you. Therefore, choose the correct option. Both A and R are true? No. So this is not there. Both A and R are true? No. A is true but R is false. A is false but R is true. A we found out is true, whereas R is false. The reasoning, this part from here to here is completely wrong. There is no such property which exists. You cannot generalize it just because of this one example to say that it always happens. And therefore, the correct answer is option C. A is true, but R is false. I hope you guys have understood this particular question really, really well. Let us go to the next question for the day. It says that a company manufactures three types of components, A, B, and C. Okay. It's a word problem sort of question based on application of the concepts that you have learned, or probably it's pretty easy. Let's see. The company, the number of components manufactured each day is in continued proportion. I told you that this is important. The company's daily production of component A is 64. The daily production of component C is 225. The first question which they are asking is find the daily production of component B. Okay, they have said that the number of components manufactured each day is in continued proportion. What does this mean? There are three components which are manufactured, so it means A divided by B is equal to B divided by C. Okay, what does this mean? B square is equal to A into C. Do you know A value? The A value is 64. So it is 64 into C value is 225 units. 64 into 225. Therefore, B will be equal to square root of 64 into 225. Should you be wasting time in multiplying 225 into 64? You can do that, but that is not an intelligent way of approaching that question. 64 is basically 8 into 8. 225, this is something you should be knowing. You should be knowing what the squares of different values. So 225 is nothing but 15 into 15. Correct? So can I say this is equal to root over 8 into 15 into 8 into 15. So if I have to take common, so 8, 8, 15, 15. So therefore, it is equal to 8 into 15 to come out of the square root, and 15 eighths are 120 units. Therefore, find the daily production of component B, we have the answer 120 units. 15, 30, 45, 60, 75, 85, 90, 105, 115, 120. 15 into 8 is 120. And therefore, the daily production of component B is 120. Okay. Now, let us go for part B. Okay. They are saying if the cost of manufacturing component A is 2 rupees per unit, the cost of manufacturing component B is 3 rupees per unit, and component C is 4 rupees per unit. Find the ratio of the total cost of manufacturing components A and B to the total cost of manufacturing B and C. So what does this mean? Basically, they're asking total cost A plus B is to B plus C. This is what they are asking you, correct? Okay. What is the total for manufacturing A? 2 rupees per unit, and you have 64 units. So 64 into 2 plus B. B is how much? You have 120 and it is 3. So it is 120 into 3 is to 120 into 3 plus you have 4 rupees per unit and you have 225 units. So 225 into 4. Correct? Therefore, it will be 64 into 2, 4 2s are 8, 6 2s are 12, 128 plus 3 zeros are 0, 3 2s are 6, 3 1s are 3. Okay, you could just do 12, 24, 36, 360 is to 360 plus 225 into 4. 5 4s are 20, 2 in the mind, 4 2s are 8, 9, 10, 1 in the mind, 4 2s are 8, 900. So I will continue it here is equal to 128 plus 360. 8 plus 0 is 8. 6 plus 2 is 8. 3 plus 1 is 4. 488 is to 360 plus 900. 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 6 is 6. 9 plus 3 is 12. Which we will try to reduce to its simplest form, which I'm trying to divide by 4. So it is 122 is to 4 3s are 12, 4 1s are 4, 5 6 20, 4 5s are 20. Can we reduce this further to it does not work with 2, with 3, 2 plus 2 4 5? No, it does not work. We can leave it just as 122 is to 315. Okay. Are you clear with this sort of question? अगर इस प्रकार का question आए आप solve कर पाओगे? What I just said was, will you be able to solve if such a question is given? Yes. நிச்சயமா பண்ண முடியும் madam. நிச்சயமா பண்ண முடியும். Okay. Let us go to the next question. Okay. So this question says, looks like a very chunnu munnu question. Using properties of proportion, find value of x such that x is positive. And this is a particular equation that is given to you. I will just rewrite that particular equation for you in case you don't understand from the text. So it is 2x plus root over 4x square minus 1 divided by 2x minus root over 4x square minus 1 is equal to 4. This is the question and I want you guys to solve this particular question. Okay, please solve the question. I hope you are noting down how many questions you have actually got right, what are the questions you have got wrong. Okay, shall we start? Okay, so you have to find the value of x. What did I tell you you should do in such questions? You should use the properties of proportion. So what did the property of proportion say? Please write down even this part, because you can actually write it in your exam. In case, even if finally you're not able to get the answer, if you write the formula or the concept, you will at least get a little marks. Okay, so you according to the properties of proportion, if you have a by b, if it is equal to c by d, then using, you can write component and dividend. I'm writing c and d, a plus b by a minus b is equal to c plus d by c minus d. Is this clear? So similarly, you can say that using componendo and dividendo, here a plus b by a by b is equal to c by d. If you do not have a denominator, you can consider it to be 1. Correct? Correct. So therefore a plus b by a minus b, so what will it be, is equal to, I'll put an arrow like this, 2x plus root over 4x square minus 1 plus 2x minus root over 4x square minus 1 divided by, this part is the a plus b part, a minus b, 2x plus root over 4x square minus 1 minus 2x, minus and minus plus root over 4x square minus 1, which is equal to c plus d by c minus d, which is 4 plus 1 by 4 minus 1. Okay, then plus 4 root over 4x square minus 1 minus root over 4x square minus 1 gets cancelled. So you get 2x plus 2x, 4x, divided by plus 2x minus 2x gets cancelled. You have plus 4x root over 4x square minus 1. You have another plus root over 4x square minus 1. It will be 2 into root over 4x square minus 1, which is equal to 4 plus 1, 5, divided by 4 minus 1 is 3. Okay, now I can do 2 ones are 2 twos are. Okay, now what I will try to do, I'll just erase a little this side so that I can go ahead with my calculation. I hope you have noted all of this down. So therefore I will try to do I will try to square on both sides. Please write full form. I'm writing square on both sides. You can write the full form. So therefore, you have 2x here. 2x becomes 2 square is 4, x square is 4x square, divided by root over 4x square minus 1 will be, root will go away. So it will be 4x square minus 1, which is equal to square of 5 by 3. 5 square is 25. 3 square is 9. Okay, let us try to cross multiply now. 9 into 4 is 36x square is equal to 25 4s are 25, 50, 75, 100 x square minus 25. Now let me try to get the x square on one side. Always ensure that the x, whatever you're finding, is always positive. So 100 minus 36 is nothing but 64 x square is equal to, minus 25 comes this side, becomes plus 25. Isn't it? So x square is nothing but 25 by 64. So therefore x is equal to plus or minus 25 root is 5, 64 root is 8. So it is plus or minus 5 by 8, whereas they have said find the value of x such that it is positive. So therefore x value will be, x will be equal to plus 5 by 8, or you can just write it as 5 by 8. So this is the answer to our question on componendo and dividendo. What do I want you to do after this particular video is over, I want you to practice as many questions as you can on this particular chapter. It is quite a direct chapter. I want you to do all the PYQs of this chapter. One question from here was in fact from the PYQs. So I want you to do all the PYQs from this chapter. I also want you to do only not the very easy questions on proportions, and I want you to do textbook, whichever textbook you are following. Please do the questions from your textbook. Okay? Do not do the very simple, very easy questions that these are in continued proportion. Find the value of C. Those are the very simple one marker type of questions. Do not do those. Do not waste time on those, because I'm very sure you will be able to solve those very easily. Just do this and this, just to check whether you are able to solve them well. Just take about an hour or two and finish these particular questions. Is that clear? Next, in our next video, we will be trying to decode another chapter, and what my attempt is through this entire series is that chapter wise you have achieved perfection in each and every chapter in these a few days before your mathematics board exam. You can also take time today to also go through chapters from other subjects, like for example second language for those of you who have it on 25th, and for those of you who have Hindi, you can revise Hindi. You can also look at doing some parts of geography, right? But please ensure that every single day you're doing at least what is given in this video and some practice questions, so that at least one chapter is tick marked in your schedule for your exam. Okay? Um, thank you so much for watching. Ellarkum nandri, vanakkam. So see you guys in the next one. Okay? Bye bye.